Check, 1, 2, here we go. Good morning, welcome. It's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Okay, is this your 18th Convoter Day? How many people? 18th? Yeah, right on, okay. We're making it happen. All right, let's get started. We've got a whole bunch of announcements. Here is the legendary David Wolf Cochran.
All right, good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? All right. I'm a student assistant over at Kipp Corps, and we wanted to give you guys an invitation to come watch a film. You can see a great film this weekend and receive Convo credit only by attending the Kipp Corps film series at 3 p.m. in Cabot Auditorium. The film being screened on Sunday is called Dawnland. The film discusses the 20th century tragedy in America when Native American children were taken from their parents and forced to live with white families in foster homes and on boarding schools. This practice was later investigated by the first U.S. government-sponsored Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the state of Maine. The film Dawnland takes you behind the scenes as the investigators are faced with hard truths about this period in our nation's history and what it means for future tribal relations. There will also be post-film discussion led by Dan Wildcat, Professor of Indigenous and American Indian Studies at Haskell Indian Nations University in Lawrence. Again, Kipp Corps will show this film Sunday at 3 p.m. If you attend, be sure to sign in and sign out after the post-film discussion in order to receive Convo credit. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm with the Bethel Collegian, and right now we are trying to promote our social media. So we are offering you guys a chance to win free pizza. If you follow us on any of these social media accounts within the next hour, you guys will be entered in a drawing to win a free pizza. And as college students, I know we are all about free food, so go follow those accounts.
Hey guys, I'm Jaxie Girk. I'm with SGA, and I'm here to tell you some of our new senators that got confirmed Sunday at the last Senate meeting. We had Mary Vermillion, Jacob Russell, Thomas Kucera, Nolan Trader, Sophia Minder, Zachary Cannell, Amanda Street, and Matthew Hernandez. So those are some of the newer people, and look out for them and go with them with any concerns that you have. Thanks.
Can you put the Gala slide, please? So we are now starting to give out tickets for Gala. So watch out for that. Please go to Student Life to pick them up. Pictures will start at 5 p.m., so that's when the doors will open. Dinner will be at 6 p.m. for Gala. Guests are $20. Please go in so you guys can pick what food you want, so we order the right amount of food. So then the SAC slide. So tonight we have a s'mores night at 7 p.m. at Memorial Grove. Come over and have some fun. Watch out for our next events next week, which is Pie Night and Thresher Cinema. So watch out for our events. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cabot, and I'm here to remind you that the Friendsgiving is happening tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. It's at the Bethel College Mennonite Church, and it's a come-and-go event, and the performances are starting around 6:30, and we will have lots of yummy food from all over the world, and it's just going to be fun. Hope to see many of you there.
Hi everyone, I'm Becca Schrog from Kaufman Museum across the way, and tomorrow we have our Living Endowment dinner. So it's a big fundraiser. It starts at 6:30. And it begins with an apple cider reception. We have special after hours access to the exhibits with a catered dinner inside of the exhibits all around. And then following the dinner, we have a fascinating presentation by Denise Sherman, Executive Director of the Kansas African American Museum. Has anyone ever been to that museum? Yay, a couple people. All right, so they've done this amazing project, and I'll try to be fast, called the Kansas African American History Trail. And so she'll be sharing stories of African Americans and their journeys, contributions, and legacies that shaped Kansas. So I think you'll be surprised and moved by her presentation. What I want to offer is we have 10 seats to fill. Community members paid $100 each for these seats to fundraise the museum and give a Bethel College student a really great night talking to people, learning, and enjoying great food. So I'll have this up, sign up after Convo, and I'll also be up to answer any questions afterwards. Thank you.
I'm the last one, I'll be fast. My name is Kendrick, and I'm here with the Worship and Art Symposium. We have two main events. First is a worship event next Friday at 7. We're flying in a group from Virginia called Urban Doxology. Their music was playing as you came in. They write their own music to be relevant to people of many backgrounds. So it's free next Friday at 7 right here in the auditorium. And then second, we have the symposium, which is on Saturday. You'll get a chance to interact with the band and hear about people's experience with racial and economic divisiveness within the church. If you're coming to that, we ask that you register online. There are flyers like this around campus if you want more info, or you can talk to me or Charlie Gibson. So in summary, come to the Worship and Arts event Friday at 7. Here there's a worship event, and then on Saturday, come to the symposium and register online. Thank you.
And now, here's Brad Schmidt.
Good morning. Today is the annual Young Alumnus Awards Convocation, a special convo that happens only once each year. I'm glad to see students, alumni, friends of the college, and family and friends of the award recipient here today to share this special occasion. At this time, I'll call on Jeffrey Graber, a 2004 graduate of Bethel and chair of the awards committee of the Bethel College Alumni Association, to say a bit about the award, introduce the recipient, and introduce the person giving a citation honoring our award winner. Jeffrey.
Thank you. This morning, Bethel College is pleased to recognize 2004 graduate Chad Unrau for his exceptional work in mechanical and chemical engineering. The annual Young Alumnus Award is based on character and citizenship, achievement or service rendered, and honors and recognitions received. The recipient must be 39 years of age or younger. Chad first caught the attention of the awards committee for his work in environmental safety, specifically the invention of a fuel vapor suppression system. He's also been a leader in the area of energy efficient technologies and emissions reductions. His current work branches into the creation of high efficiency water treatment technologies. Chad was one of my classmates, and as I think back now, it makes complete sense that he's getting this award because he's always been a high achiever. He was that guy on campus that did everything and did it really well. Man, nobody liked you. You made us look bad. We're talking about football, track, and you've heard a lot about the football team's done a lot of great things that hasn't happened since 07, 08, that group. Chad was the one that laid the foundation in 03, 04 to kind of ramp up to that. So there's a lot of parallels we've seen the last couple of years with those football teams and the football teams that Chad was on. I think there's no question. He was in choir. He was an original member of Open Road, started back then, as well as achieving quite a bit in the classroom. So really, this makes complete sense. This morning we will present the award to Chad and hear a presentation from him. Following the conversation, you can join him in the CAF for informal lunch and discussion. And then at 1 o'clock, Chad will speak to the Calculus 1 class. Finally, this evening, there will be a reception in his honor here on campus. So at this time, I'll call on Richard Zerger, former professor of chemistry at Bethel College, to read the citation for Chad.
It is an honor and privilege this morning to introduce to you Dr. Chad Unrau, a 2004 graduate of Bethel College. Chad was chosen by the Alumni Awards Committee for the 2019 Young Alumnus Award because of his outstanding accomplishments in the area of science and engineering since graduating from Bethel College. He's married to Mindy Fenestel Unrau, Bethel class of 2005. Chad was a remarkable student while at Bethel. His performance in my Chem 2 class gave me hope that he might choose chemistry as a major. But alas, he had other plans. He chose instead to graduate with majors in both physics and mathematics, while also being very involved in extracurricular activities, as you heard. Chad lettered all 4 years in football and track and was chosen the 2004 Bethel College Athlete of the Year. In 2003 and 2004, he was selected as an academic All-American. In addition to all that, he was a member of the college choir and Open Road. What makes Chad stand out going forward, however, is not just his strong academic record, but as you will see, he has throughout his career leveraged his academic strengths by embracing new opportunities and choosing stimulating challenges. Looking to the future, Chad took note of the special arrangement Bethel had at the time with the School of Engineering at Washington University in St. Louis. And so in the fall of 2004, he started on the path to becoming an engineer at one of the top engineering schools in the U.S. He continued his education. He graduated with a master's degree in mechanical engineering in 2006. He continued his education at Washington University in St. Louis, graduating with a PhD degree in chemical engineering in 2009. Ah, chemistry at last. His research involved the synthesis of single-walled carbon nanotubes. The production and characterization of this relatively new form of carbon was a hot area of research at the time. A newly minted PhD in hand, Chad was ready for his first industrial engineering position. No doubt his doctoral research topic had a positive impact on Chad being quickly hired by Cabot Corporation in Pampa, Texas in July 2009. Cabot is well known as a supplier for specialty carbon materials. As a senior research and development engineer at Cabot, he co-invented, scaled up, and commercially implemented a new carbon black energy efficient technology, which delivered a 50% reduction in emissions. Contacts made while at Cabot led to an offer in March 2014 to join NanoVapor Incorporated, an emerging safety and environmental technology company located in the Woodlands, Texas. As director of engineering at NanoVapor, he invented new fuel vapor suppression system and developed the system into a commercial product. This system uses a proprietary technology to remove volatile organic compounds from fuels in order to prevent explosions. Along with his involvement in business development and engineering for NanoVapor's products, he was also instrumental in establishing global operations. In May 2017, Chad joined Magna Imperio Systems Corporation, located in Spring, Texas. As Chief Technology Officer of Magna Imperio Systems, he is responsible for creating and executing the technology vision for the company. MI Systems is a national and international water technology company that designs, develops, and manufactures the highest recovery, most energy and cost efficient, and sustainable water treatment system in the world. MI Systems uses a patented electrochemical nanodiffusion process that revolutionizes the energy efficiency and recovery for desalinization of brackish and polluted waters. This process provides for up to 60% energy savings and clean water recoveries of up to 99+%. This innovative water treatment system finds application in areas such as emergency response water treatment, oil and gas wastewater remediation and reuse, and agriculture water purification for irrigation. Currently, MI Systems is part of a project to provide clean water to nearly every person in Nimba County, Liberia. By now, you should see a pattern in Chad's career path. He has been very successful at integrating his remarkable expertise in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics with the developing entrepreneurial spirit. He has certainly become a significant entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience in operations, research and development, product development, and engineering. He has authored or co-authored numerous research publications and has a number of patents to his credit. It should also be noted that throughout his career, Chad has been involved in projects that have had an impact on solving some of the most pressing global problems: clean water, pollution control, and reduction in energy consumption. For me, it has been a real pleasure to follow Chad's career over the years. Seeing your former students put their gifts and talents to good use and to flourish in their chosen careers is one of a teacher's greatest perks. Chad, speaking as a member of the Bethel College Alumnus Awards Committee, you're a truly worthy recipient of the 2019 Young Alumnus Award. We take great pride in what you have accomplished in a relatively short period of time and wish you all the best for continued success in the future. Congratulations, and we look forward to your address.
At this time, I'll have Chad and Brad come up. Chad, the Bethel College Alumni Association is pleased to honor you with this year's Young Alumnus Award. Brad will now present the plaque.
The 2019 Young Alumnus Award is conferred upon Chad Unrau for dedication to and innovation in creating cleaner fuel in the energy industry.
Well, for those of you on your 18th convo, I have a real treat for you this morning. I've got about 60 slides, so buckle up and we'll get started here. I'm just kidding. I'll keep it, try to keep it impactful here. I'm glad to see the football team still sits in the back corner over there. That's excellent. That's a good spot. Way to keep it up after all these years. So I want to talk today about a couple of different things. First, thank you, Bethel, for the award. I'm deeply honored for that. There's certainly a lot of great candidates in my own class, and certainly people since I've graduated that are deserving of this award. So it's quite the honor to have that, and certainly build a great foundation here that I want to talk about a little bit. You heard about sort of my history from Dr. Zerger, and apologize publicly to him for not getting a chemistry degree. I just couldn't work it in, but maybe in a little while, if you come back and teach, I'll come back to school. How about that? Anyway, so you heard quite a bit about my history, but what I really want to talk about today is the stuff in between those different accomplishments, because what I've learned from growing up on the farm at home to working in science, you see the title there, kind of a joke, but really the entrepreneur side of me has sort of figured out how to work through these really tough transitions that have been challenging and ultimately required to be successful. And so I want to share some of that with you guys. I want to work in that work behind the scenes, talk about the work that I've been doing, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So this is my life right now. So that's exciting. It's a little up and down. I think I'm medium right now, about right there. But the reason this slide's important is because when you're trying to start a business, or anytime you do anything new, coming to Bethel College is something new for everybody, right? And your steps after this will be the same, and you always go through these ups and downs. But it's been pretty extreme in the last couple of years, as my wife Mindy can attest to. She's been a great support for me. But just to give you a feel for the extremes, a high for us this year was selling over $1 million worth of equipment. That was pretty amazing. We went from no sales last year to 7 figures. So that was a pretty big deal. Earlier this year, before that happened, we had to manage the business, and I had to look the 7 engineers in the face that I hired and tell them that they weren't going to be working for us anymore. So those are sort of the extremes that I've been going through, but all in all, you sort of get this upward trajectory going, and it's really quite exciting once we get to the top. We're not there yet. I'll talk about my current company at the end, but still have a ways to go, but it's been a lot of fun. So this is sort of starting at the end and working back to the beginning, but kind of working through the winding road of where I've been. You saw the different places that Jeff and Dr. Zerger talked about. So I want to walk through each of those, share a little bit of my experience with you, talk a little bit about the technology that I've worked on, and hopefully you find something useful out of it, and if not, maybe at least it'll be entertaining. So this is Unrau Farms back in the day. So I never really put it together until I was working on this slide, but the family farm's been, it's on its 4th generation now. And you really think about entrepreneurship. I mean, on a farm, you're up against things that you don't control, weather and the markets. And you're constantly fighting against those things. And frankly, I think it's terrifying a lot of times. I don't know how my dad and my grandpa and my uncles have done it for so long, but it's really quite amazing. But that sort of start for me is where the entrepreneurial side began. And of course, I've always been interested in science, as you heard. But this phrase, really important. I still hear that in my head today from my dad because of all these ups and downs. You just have to make sure you always stay on an even keel because it's, whether it's weather, working the crop, or you've got, something else going on in your life, it's important to remember that things will come out okay as long as you put in the work. So starting back at Bethel College, I was looking for some pictures, and Mindy gave me a hard time for how long I spent on time on looking for pictures, but I wasn't able to find any old ones for Bethel because it was too far back. This was, now everyone's got an iPhone and everything's right at your fingertips. We did have phones back then. It wasn't, we weren't on dial-up. Or no, we were on dial-up earlier before that. Oh, that's bad. Anyway, I think I couldn't find some great pictures, but I wanted to talk about a few things. You heard about the football and track stuff and academics and choir. All of these things were really meaningful to me. I don't want to dwell on that too much other than to say I do think it's really important to be involved. So all of you that are here that are involved in either, not just academics, but fine arts, sports, whatever it might be, that is really important because I found it very valuable going through my career, not only being part of teams, but figuring out how to be an individual and a team at the same time. And that is one of the points I want to make is whatever situation you're in, you always have to drive forward as if you're the one that's responsible for the success because otherwise it doesn't happen. And just circling back to the entrepreneurship, I got, this is an old picture of, or not an old picture, this is a new picture, latest picture of the choir in a grain bin, but that was a pretty meaningful time for me being part of that. I just saw Bill earlier. I don't know where he is in the audience now, but that was pretty great. And circling back to entrepreneurship, Open Road actually started in 2001, and Brett's back there somewhere in the audience. He and I and a couple other guys started that, and it's pretty amazing to see that still going 18 years later. We started it just kind of for fun, and I don't think we were very productive back then, but we did put out a CD. I'm pretty sure that's on a top chart somewhere. It has to be. But that was, looking back, putting these slides together, it was pretty fun to see that that's still going. And the other thing I'll say about the Bethel experience like this is sort of all the formal stuff. All the informal stuff that you can't really put on slides, like going to parties and that kind of stuff, is equally important. It's genuinely important. You got to hang out. You got to have fun. You got to meet people. You have to put equal time into that. Not advocating that you do that all of the time, but it is important to have a healthy balance and really figure out where you're going. So, going to the next slide here, I actually didn't figure out where I was going. The introduction was great because it sounded like I had everything figured out the whole way through, but not actually true. I was originally supposed to leave here after 3 years, stayed 4 years, and then still didn't know what I wanted to do. Hence the title. I just stayed in school because that happened to be an option for me, and went to WashU, which was a fantastic experience. I was able to study there for 5 years under Dr. Axelbaum. That's why I got a big picture of him. He's a great mentor for me. But my main point on this slide is you're not going to figure out what you want to do. You get your major, you might do something else, who knows, right? But the key thing is you got to try. You got to try things, you're going to fail, and you got to try again. And that's what I've learned, especially, I'm going to talk about it in my current company. You have no idea how many times we failed at technology development projects and how many late hours there were, but it's really important that you keep doing that until it's fun again. That's a shout out to the guys in the back. And I will say this, you hear this phrase sometimes and people sort of have maybe a negative attitude about who you know, right? But it actually is very important who you know. because I can tell you, this guy got me my first job. I graduated in 2009 from Washington University, and guess what? That's when the market crashed. There were no jobs. And that guy got me the only interview that I had, and that was pretty amazing, because otherwise I was gonna stay in school for another couple of years, which let me tell you what, after you do 4 years here and 5 years there, it's like an insane asylum at that point, so you gotta move on. But I was really fortunate, and my point here I wanna get back to is that it matters who you know. Make sure that you're connecting with people. It's really important. Whether it's your professors or your peers here, stay in touch, which I don't do a great job of still. I work on this every day. But the people that you meet and that you know are gonna lead to future successes. And you're gonna find out when you apply for jobs coming out of here, if you're just applying on the internet, it's not going anywhere. You gotta have an in, you gotta know somebody. And I can certainly, if you know anybody that's in the sciences or in that type of field, I can certainly help you with that. So that was WashU. That was a great time in St. Louis. Unfortunately, we had to leave there, move to a great city called Amarillo, Texas, middle of nowhere. I actually played football with quite a few Texas guys, and we were great friends, but they always told me how great Texas was. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure it's great. And I thought I'd never live in Texas, and now we've been there for 10 years. So it's been actually a pretty good spot for us in the end. So this is my first job out of school. Dr. Zerger mentioned Cabot earlier. So I came out of school thinking that I knew everything. I was the smartest guy in the room. And you see that right there? That is called a bag filter. And my first project at Cabot was to make that better. And so I was like, all right, I can do that. I've got all this science stuff going on. I got all these equations I'm gonna use. Yeah, that doesn't work. No, well, let me rephrase that. The stuff you're learning here is very important, but the world doesn't exactly work like it does in a book. So that's what I'm trying to say. All right, so this project, to get to the point, was a colossal failure. I spent $100,000 of the company's money, 6 months, didn't work. Fortunately, I was able to dig myself out of the hole. But these guys right here, these guys taught me how the world really works in industry. So when I joined Cabot, it's a 24/7 pilot plant operation. There's like 20 guys. And I came in, everybody was 15 years, 20 years older than me, which was a really interesting dynamic. But those guys had a ton of knowledge, which is kind of my point on this slide, is you're not gonna know everything, and you gotta make sure that you ask for help. My boss actually told me to go talk to the filter expert in the company, and I didn't wanna do it because I wanted to do it on my own. That was a bad idea, because otherwise I would have never gone down the path. But learned some valuable lessons. My main point is these guys really helped shape my understanding of how to take what you really learn in the classroom and put it to work, because it's just as important that you can design something in a lab and actually make it happen out in the field, and it's actually functional, which was not the case for that filter that I thought was going to be great. But things got better, way better. So we put together you see the reactor here? This was a really cool project. I'm just gonna spend 30 seconds on that. So this is a carbon black reactor. Essentially, it's like a big jet engine. You're spraying heavy oil into it, which is what you see here. So we were able to flip that around, and we did this out in open space. So this thing's like a roaring jet engine, just firing out into the open. And we took a high-speed camera. This is at 1 million frames a second to slow it down so we could see what's happening. This is the project that he was referring to earlier. And this is the commercial team that we implemented back, I guess it was about 10 years ago now, probably 5 years ago. But this was a really great example of taking that team effort and driving it forward and doing something that hadn't been done in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years. So, and the other point I'll make about this slide is it really takes a lot of effort. Whether you're out on the football field, which, by the way, congratulations, guys. I hadn't been following too closely, but it sounds like you got an amazing record, and it's making a comeback, so I'm really excited to hear that. I wish you were playing in town tomorrow so I could go to the game. But anyway, whether you're on the football field or you're in the classroom or you're in choir, whatever it might be, it takes a tremendous amount of work. I mean, you got to put in the hours to make things happen, and this team did that on this particular project. Whoop. So after Cabot, I was, and this kind of relates back to my title, but I was really heavy into science and R&D and that kind of thing, but you don't really run, in a company like that, you don't learn how to run a business and learn all the different aspects of it. And this is where I'll bring back the relationship piece. It's really important how you connect to people and how you communicate, because if nobody knows what you're doing and you can't communicate it, it's not gonna, it's just not gonna happen. And so I followed my boss from Cabot down to Houston to do a startup called NanoVapor. That's what you see here up in the corner. And that was, it was a pretty eye-opening experience. Now we went from an established company, a lot of revenue base, no risk, to, now we've got 3 or 4 people. And, if you don't show up to work every day in that company, that's a problem. So, we spent hours and hours and hours, 3 years, 12, 14 hours a day. And my wife and I actually put some money into the company too. So a lot of pressure. We got to make it happen. And I want to start with the fun stuff in this company because we got to see a lot of cool places together. This is actually a trade show that we did in Spain. This is a trip that we did to London for a conference. This is us in the rain in Paris, where we were for another conference. In Amsterdam, we had actually sold some systems there near Amsterdam. And so the cool thing about taking these types of risks is it allows you to get out and see the world, because this is a great place to build a foundation, but at the end of the day, this is a bubble, right? This is a really safe place to be. And you really have to push yourself, push your mind, push your body, no matter what you're doing, to try new things and see what's out there. So this was a really fantastic part of that. Able to capture some personal time there with some of those travels. But getting back to the work, so the places we actually did jobs didn't look like those other places. There's no jobs next to the Eiffel Tower. It's more looks like this in South Africa, where it's 100 degrees and the safety level isn't very high. You can see all these trenches here. I actually watched a guy walk across here, trip over a hose and hit his head on the trench here. And so just like seeing that difference of how we operate here in the US versus other places in the world was really eye-opening. And just being on site there, not even our technology, but by being on site, we were able to help improve some of that situation. And this is another project we did out in Malaysia, which is pretty much like the rainforest, super hot, rains a lot. It looks kind of beachy actually, but I can assure you it's not the case. It was a pretty remote location. And this is actually our NanoVapor system. I'll just say a few words about that while we're here. This system actually delivers a fuel vapor suppressant into the tank to keep the vapor from, you guys all smell gasoline vapors when you're at the gas station, right? Well, somebody has to go in and clean those tanks once in a while, and that's a pretty dangerous process. And so our technology was designed to go and make that process safer by introducing a chemical suppressant. So that's the system operating there. But it's, going around the world, you realize that there's a lot of places that need help. There's certainly places here in the U.S. and places around the world. I do want to share a pretty interesting story just to sort of demonstrate the starkness. When I took this flight to Malaysia, super long flight, it's like 12 hours or something, I had to fly through Tokyo. So get to the airport in Tokyo and naturally have to use the restroom after 12 hours on a plane. So go in there and wouldn't you know it, the toilet can be controlled by your phone, right? That's pretty fancy. You can actually pair your phone with it, and there's all sorts of functions. Now, I will tell you, I didn't try any of the functions because I'm like 10,000 miles from home. I don't really know what the symbols mean, so none of that was going on. But then I got to Malaysia, to this site right here, and the stark contrast was, you better not have to go number 2 because it's just a pole to hold on to with a hole in the ground. So that's sort of the very stark differences that you run across, going around the world. And thankfully, I was able to hold it till I got back to the hotel, so that was pretty awesome. But, and I'll just maybe finish this slide with, you got to find your niche. And that's tough to find. It's really hard. You may think you know what you want to do right now, and you got your major and whatever it might be. And even, I was just talking to Clark. His wife's going back to school for nursing right now. And she's been out, like me, we've been out of school for a while. But you just never know where life's gonna lead you. And I just encourage you to continue to find and seek out what you're best at. All right, so now I want to get to MI Systems. I'm going to spend, I don't know how much time do I have. I'm kind of long-winded, so I was joking about the long slides, but I really don't want to keep everybody here too long. But I want to spend some time talking about water. So I worked with energy for a long time in Cabot and at NanoVapor, and water sort of tied it all together for me. That's why I joined MI Systems, because water is an impending crisis around the world. Most of us flip on the tap and expect water to come out, right? And we don't really care where it comes from, it just comes out, it's great. But the reality is there's a tremendous, and I've just learned this over the last couple of years, there's a tremendous amount of treatment that goes into actually getting you clean water. And there's lots of places, like in the pictures that you see here, that don't have water. It's a pretty serious situation. Dr. Zerger mentioned, I'm not going to talk too much about our founders' foundation actually does work, humanitarian work that's adjacent with MI Systems, so that's what he mentioned earlier. So we're doing some of that work. I'm going to focus mostly on the commercial side, but that's certainly equally as important. The challenge with water is it's just running out. If you look at even just around here, I was walking past the creek and it's dry in some spots, and certainly in Texas, California, we have issues. Mexico, South Africa, which I mentioned earlier, Australia, a lot of these places have issues, and so the mission around MI Systems is how do we solve this crisis? How do we bring technology and services to really make an impact around the world? And this has been a really fun journey for me and a lot of learning. Back to the slide that I showed first with the ups and downs, is that all worth it? Well, I sure hope so in the end, because I put in 3 years and some more money and time, and we'll see. We're still on the upswing right now, but I do think doing something meaningful is really important, and this is meaningful to me in terms of seeing a technology that we started in the lab at little bitty scale, and over the last 2 years now it's a full-scale system. We've got them out in the field, and we're saving people water and money. And in some cases lives where it's absolutely critical. So apologize for the corporateness of this slide, didn't have time to remake it, but it does capture what we're really trying to do, which is get the most out of every drop of water. Like I said, a lot of us turn on the shower in the morning. I take too long of showers, so I should probably do my part there. But there's lots of ways we can save water, but the bottom line is we're running out, and we have to move towards tougher sources of water. It's not just coming out of the aquifer that's below us or from fresh water. That's all drying up. So how do we get the most out of it? And key things that are important here are, how do you operate reliably when there's a bunch of stuff in the water, right? Oil, grease, particles, whatever it might be, all the nasty stuff that we don't ever want it to show up coming out of our faucets. Regulatory compliance is a big one, and then just reducing, for industry, we reduce costs. A lot of people talk about sustainability. I like to talk about beneficial sustainability. So that sort of sounds like I'm repeating myself, but a lot of industry will talk about sustainability but not actually do anything about it, because at the end of the day, does it make them money? And so a big part of our company is how do we deliver technology and services that can actually make people money? Because if you can't make somebody money in industry, they're not going to buy it. And our mission behind that, of course, is to save water and to increase our resources, and that all ties in here to getting the most out of every drop. So just to talk a little bit about the technology, don't worry, I don't have any equations. I wanted to, but I refrained. I'll save that for the calculus class this afternoon. Just kidding, I don't even remember any of that stuff now. That's the interesting thing as you progress through this career, is I spent a lot of time learning the math and science and all the fundamentals. Just got, like you guys learn the fundamentals in whatever you're involved in here at Bethel. And that builds the foundation, but you get out into the into the job and into the real problems. And a lot of the issues become people, and it becomes operations, and how do you actually deliver a solution? So it's not just, this is the base, but it's really how do you become efficient at that? And so I think that's a pretty important part, and that ties back to building those relationships and understanding what you really have to do to be successful after you leave here. So anyway, our technology, bunch of words here. Some that you may recognize in the news: arsenic, fluoride. Probably don't recognize those, but there's salts in the water. There's always salt in the water. Seawater, groundwater has salt in it. Certainly, sometimes we have these nasty components. We take all those out with our technology. We do it very efficiently, and this is an important number: water recovery. So a lot of your water right now comes today from reverse osmosis, which is a pressure-based technology. Been around a long time. It's quite standardized these days, but it only operates at about 70 to 80% efficiency, meaning if you put 100 gallons in, 20 to 30% of that is going down the drain somewhere and just being discharged, not being used for anything. So that's why this number is important, because we're going to take that water, no matter where we are in the world, and increase that recovery, that water recovery. So if you have 100 gallons in, our goal is to get 98 gallons out, which is quite a change from today's tech. So here's the actual equipment. We built this last year, worked through Christmas to get this out in the field, and I'll talk a little bit more about it on the next slide. But basically, we're based on a technology that's called EDR, and we got some electrochemistry in there, which, Dr. Zerger, he really subliminally messaged me to stay in chemistry. It came through in the end. But, we've got an automated control system. We can tune the output to whatever you want. So you probably, a lot of you, I'm sure, drink bottled water. Yep, bottled water. And soda drinks, and maybe even some of you enjoy an alcoholic beverage now and then. So the salt content is actually really important for all those products. So we're in the beverage industry, and being able to tune in that level will be help control the taste of what you're actually drinking. So whether you know it or not, virtually every product you drink has some level of salt tuning in it, and our system does that quite efficiently. So just back to a little bit of science here. This is how the technology works. We've got two electrodes. We apply power to them, and the ions here might be sodium chloride, like table salt. There's other ions too, but those are the ones that are probably most familiar. We turn on the power. Those salts go through these selective membranes, and they get trapped in this brine stream. And this brine waste stream runs around in a loop until it gets concentrated enough, and then we dump it, or we haul it off, or do whatever we need to do with it for the customer. And this is where we get that 98 gallons out and about 2 gallons of waste. So this is sort of the basics of how the technology works. And what we've been able to do is really invent novel materials around this entire stack to allow us to achieve these very high recoveries, but keep the energy consumption low to bring energy efficiency back into it. So this is actually the device that actually takes salt out. So it's a big stack of membranes. It's like a big block of plastic, a little fancier than that, but it really takes out quite a bit of salt, and we can stack that into a wall and then into a full-scale system. So we can go anywhere from a couple of gallons a minute, so a few like milk jugs a minute, all the way up to 1 million gallons a day with these systems. Just to talk about our deployments a little bit, so kind of back to the original theme of how do you get through these transitions. So my first year at MI Systems, we were working on building out the technology. It was just this little bitty thing. Weren't really sure where it was going at the point, but we had a really dedicated team and drove that project forward to get to the point where we could actually sell a commercial system, and this is actually installed in a brewery in Houston. So if you come down to visit, look me up, and we can go over there and you guys can check out the system. But they were operating at 65% recovery. So they're wasting 35% of all the water they feed to it. We took them up to 96.5%. And you can see how that type of impact can translate around the world to different applications from humanitarian to industry. This system right here, pretty cool backdrop here. This is out in California. This is on a wastewater plant. So not only is the quality of drinking water important, so is the quality of the water that you're discharging. So if you can't save it all, it's got to go somewhere, and it better not hurt the environment, right? So these guys were actually out of compliance on their environmental permit, and we just finished up this pilot out north of LA that brought them back into compliance, and we'll be installing that full-scale system here later this year. This system right here is in a winery. You may be seeing a theme. We try to only install systems where it's fun to be. So that may be in California, maybe overseas, often in the beverage industry. We're really not trying to make money for it. Oh, no, I better not say that. I'm just kidding. We're certainly trying to make money for our investors, but having an impact while we do it. And we try to have fun doing it too, right? It's important that you look up once in a while. Certainly I have a problem with being in my phone all the time. I'm sure you guys do as well. It's important to put those things down as often as possible and look up, because you see stuff like this in the background, which is pretty cool. So this system's in a winery in the Sonoma area. They're also out of compliance on their wastewater discharge. We're bringing them into compliance, and they're now reusing all that wastewater that they were wasting. And lastly, I will mention this system right here. Well, they both look the same, so that doesn't matter. But the other system that you see up here is going to be installed next quarter or next year in at a rehab facility for drinking water. So they have a groundwater well, high arsenic, high fluoride, high antimony. That one's not as important because I didn't know what it was until this project came up. And taking salt out. And all of these things, in order for them to have healthy water at their site, we've got to be able to treat it. Oh, and by the way, they don't have anywhere to haul their waste. And so we've got to be able to get as much of that water to them as we can. And that's what we're going to do with this system here. We'll be delivering that in January. So that's been a pretty fun part of just in the last couple of months. This system's been running for a year, but the rest of these have been just deployed here recently. So we're kind of on that upswing now in terms of the company morale and momentum, trying to get things going, and things are looking really great for this next year. We've got a number of great prospects coming up, and we're looking to really build the company out. Certainly, if you guys are interested in water, if you're interested in having that type of impact, or in energy for that matter, definitely give me a call. Check us out on our website. We always love to have people involved, however we can get them involved. All right, so this is where we are right now as MI Systems. It's kind of an ominous name, but this is a classic startup graph, because you start out over here, all the excitement, initial investment, everybody's excited, and then the reality sets in, and you gotta really buckle down and drive through the real problems. And that's where we are right now. I showed you a couple of systems that were going out, so we're starting to work our way climbing up this hill, but we've got a ways to go yet, and it's going to be pretty exciting to see how it happens. But I can tell you it's not going to be easy, but I do believe it'll be worth it in the end. And hopefully we'll be here in a couple of years. So I think probably held you guys long enough here for your 18th. I think you earned it. But I want to leave you with some parting thoughts here. Definitely build out your network. So everybody's into social media. I'm not too much into it. I like LinkedIn and all the other stuff. I don't know. But however you build your network, make sure you do that. Make sure you stay in contact with people. If you're in the sciences, I can certainly help you out. But definitely get your name out there. Don't just be behind the keyboard. Put in the work. You guys know, whether you're on the football field or in the classroom or in the auditorium here doing a play, it takes a tremendous amount of work, and you better try no matter what, because it's I can tell you it was terrifying to go from Cabot to my first startup. Absolutely terrifying. I had to move Mindy and I from the north of Texas to the south of Texas. New home, new job. We only had 6 months of cash in the company. I didn't mention that before. And you know, that was really hard, but what came out of that was I got introduced to MI Systems, and now, you know, we've got a real opportunity to have a massive impact in the world. So it's really important, no matter how terrifying it is, to get out there and do it. And I'll just make a comment about NanoVapor, about that startup. You know, sometimes you put in the work, like a lot of work, and it doesn't work out. And that's what happened at NanoVapor. It was a great experience, met a lot of great people, traveled around the world, but it didn't work. You got to know when to call it quits, even if you've got, you know, 3 years of 14 hours a day invested into it. But the next great thing is just right around the corner. And I already mentioned that one regarding the phones. So definitely do that once in a while. This team here, I do want to just acknowledge the team here and do a few other acknowledgments before I finish. These guys are phenomenal. This is the team that brought the technology from nothing to something, and most of these guys are still there, and we're having a blast. So, so, you know, there's a lot of stressful stuff in life, and, you know, these guys have it figured out, though. They're just hanging out. These are our miniature schnauzers, and the one thing I really appreciate about them is they're always happy to see you, and they're always loyal. And I think that's a really great thing to keep in mind, no matter what interaction we're in. These guys are phenomenal here. So just to wrap it up here, some final acknowledgments. I want to thank certainly my mom and dad, my grandparents who are here, my wife Mindy, my buddies from college who made the effort to be here. It's awesome. Certainly all my professors back in the day, Dr. Zerger, Jeff's here, Dr. Esch, I saw John McCabe Yunke somewhere, Dwight Crable's probably in here somewhere, there he is. A lot of great professors that allowed me to get to where I am, so thank you for that. Thank you for the award, deeply honored to be here, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Come forward and talk to Chad if you have more questions, and also he'll be available at lunch. Don't forget to pet your dog, or find a dog to pet this weekend.
There you go.
There you go.